Hello my friends and welcome to a new video in which this time I'm going to turn to the manga side of Kamekame. And one of my favorite manga I spent time reading was Rurouni Kenshin, or Rurouni for short. And let me tell you, it is one of the most sought after series that you'll ever find during the late 90s. You see, the series started, in 1996. It went on from it went on from 98. It went from 96 to 98. 1996 to 1998. I never did get a chance to see it until it showed up on Cartoon Network, but I knew about it. So, let me tell you a bit about it. It's about, in short, Rurouni Kenshin, otherwise known as Kenshin the Wanderer. That's what Rurouni means. It's basically about a story about a wandering swordsman that goes by the name of Himura Kenshin, and he wanders into the school of the Kashin Kamyo Kendo, and it's led by Kaoru Kamiya. She finds herself overwhelmed by sheer numbers when she was fending off some hooligans who want to take her dojo. He shows up at the last minute and he starts wailing on them. The good thing about it is he doesn't show his face when he really needs to show his face. He is a badass. And this all takes place during the Meiji era. So, if you're willing to know, the original title is called Rurouni Kenshin Meiji Kenkaku Romatan. That's what it actually means. The romantic Meiji era. Romantic swordsman tale in the Meiji era. So, this went for 94 episodes. And, like I said, I couldn't really watch it. Not like watch it, but I mean, when Crunchyroll had it, it was one of those shows that I used to watch back in the day, when Crunchyroll was the only thing you could watch online as far as your anime was concerned. Aside from YouTube, that was the only place you could go to find anime. These days, I found other places in which you could find anime. And Rurouni Kenshin was one of those series that I used to watch almost religiously. I had my own share of anime that I used to watch growing up. Rurouni Kenshin was not one of these anime that I grew up with. I, however, did have the following. I had the Samurai X series, the OVA. I also had. Now, this is before I got into the manga. I heard about it and watched it, and yet, it was basically a good series, like 94 episodes. It's one of those kind of series that you really want to watch from beginning to end. And the manga is one of those stories you really want to start from beginning to end. Actually, the manga is rather big. It has 28 volumes. But over the years, what I did was I got myself an omnibus, which basically it's a 3-in-1 volume, so I got myself an omnibus over just say the manga. Just instead of individual parts, I got myself the manga, which not the manga, but the omnibus of the manga, which puts together, say, all the volumes from 1 to 3 until we reach, 28. Now, what I have in my hand, you can't see it, but in my hand I have the last of the Rurouni Kenshin manga. And from what I'm reading, it has 4 volumes. Like I said, it has 28 volumes. And mind you, it's a big, it's very, very big. We're talking like 689. So yeah, 28 volumes, 255 acts. And it covers like the last arc of the series. And like I said, I read all of the series. It took me a while to get through all of the series, but let me tell you, it's so worth it. And I usually say, if the anime, well, I don't usually say this, but this is what you should do. If the anime doesn't get you, read the manga. The manga covers more than what the anime will show. It's sort of like with movies. If a movie didn't get your fill, read the novel. The novel will cover more than what the movie has shown us. And that's for any known series. You name whatever series that does exist, and it doesn't mean it's limited to only anime and manga. I mean, say, Blade Runner. You have to read the original story in order to get, what is considered the full understanding of the movie. But, as I said, this is one of those series that basically goes from, it starts strong and finishes satisfactory. Just it's a very satisfied ending. And like I said, I've read through it. I have not watched all of it, but I've read through the manga. And people would basically just, I don't know about now, but they have the newer version of Rurouni. And of course, it's done by Nobuhiro Watsuki. You can say whatever you want to say about the man, but do not besmirch the best creation he ever made for, say, those 3 years he's made them. Rurouni Kenshin, well, 5 years, I take it back. It was in Weekly Shonen Jump in 1994 and 1999. So that means one thing. It's a Jump character. I know I'm bouncing around from one place to the other, but you gotta hear me out, okay? Hear me out when I say this. But when I mention Rurouni Kenshin, it is one of the greatest samurai stories ever read, ever made. And for what it's worth, it goes through a whole lot of things that, basically the events that changed the Meiji era. It basically covered the entire Meiji era. What was going on, and then after that, then afterwards, Japan went to another era. but they don't cover, the aftermath of what happened after the Meiji era. Maybe in text, but they don't go through it in the story. So the thing about this series is that when read, it is very, very, very good. It gives you a sense of, say, it's worth your time and effort in wanting more out of the story. The only thing I really wish they did was a sequel to Rurouni Kenshin featuring Yahiko, in which in the manga, at the end of the manga, he grows up. And I'm not going to go into the entirety of what all the events follow after you're done, but I can tell you, it's like one of those series that basically you feel better about reading it as well as you watching it. It does have its funny moments, I'll give it that, but it keeps you on the edge of your feet from episode 1 to the final episode. And it's one of those, it's to me a rewatch. And I will say this, if you can find the box set, get the box set. If you have watched Samurai X only, don't limit yourself. There's also the live action movies in which it tries to cover the arcs as well, but not as good as, say, the anime and the manga do it. There's also a video game on the PlayStation 1, and it's a fighter. It plays somewhat like Soul Blade, but it's not as good as Soul Blade. It is probably one of the most sought after anime I would say is worth your time in watching, as well as, investing in. And it's one of the most thought-provoking stories you'll ever read as far as manga go. So if you grew up during the 90s, when the anime boom was happening, this was part of the boom. I mean, you had such anime like Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball, Yu Yu Hakusho. And Yu Yu Hakusho is another series I'm going to cover in a later video, but for now we're just talking about Kenshin. I could tell you so many things about this series that just basically want you to go in and just, first I say read the book. Read the manga first, so you get an understanding of where all of the anime hails from. Plus, I think the anime did have about the same ending, or maybe it didn't. I wouldn't know because, like I said, I watched a small chunk of it on Cartoon Network, and it really didn't cover everything. And you can only do so much for like 23 minutes. If you take out all if you take out all the advertisements, all the commercials, you'd end up with a 23-minute anime. But I would say, if you're into something like this, go check this anime out. It is basically one of the most sought after anime you will ever find, because it leaves a lasting impression. And there's so many good anime that leave a lasting impression. It's nothing like what anime has now. You see, I can do, say, like, something around 26 to, say, 50. Me personally, I can do 26 and 50, and I would need like mainly a whole weekend to watch, say, 94. But I could do it in chunks, though. I mean, the thing is, I can do it in some, some nice beefy chunks of, say, 4 good hours. 4, maybe 5 good hours. If I'm not doing anything, and I have and I have a box set, I'll just pop in like say 1 disc, watch for a couple hours, make sure I have some to enjoy it with, like some Skittles or some popcorn or something like that, and just go from there. And otherwise, it's basically from beginning to end. You start from this part of the story to where the characters meet. Because, yeah, the entirety is we go from Kenshin meeting Kaoru. Then after that, he deals with all sorts of ruffians. While at the same time, he's trying to not awaken the Hitokiri Batosei. I mean, that's a hard thing to do, but, he manages very well to keep it in check. He only knows when he needs to use it, he will use it. Oh, rest assured, he will use it. But other times, he's mostly like, "Are? Oro?" He's a good natured dude, He's rather that kind of dude that, like, he's aloof most times. If not that, he knows when to step in and when not to step in. And when he does step in, he's totally unaware of the situation. And he tries to read the room, but he can't really read the room as well as he thinks he could read the room. So, what I can say is that it is one of those, it is like right up there with, say, Escaflowne or Record of Lodoss War as far as anime you want to settle in with for the weekend. It is one of those kind of anime. That's how I feel. Rurouni Kenshin is one of those games. Not games. Well, it is one of those games too, but it's not as good as, say, Samurai Deeper Kyo. As far as the game is concerned, Samurai Deeper Kyo gives you a whole lot more to choose from than, say, Rurouni. That's what most people call it. They're fans of the series. They usually call it Rurouni. So down the line, it's basically from episode 1 to 94. It is a joyride. It really is. And it doesn't matter if you're going to watch the anime or the live action. Whether it's Rurouni Kenshin or Samurai X, do not forsake the manga. It's just like with Rumiko Takahashi's Inuyasha. in order for you to understand the gist of what the story's about, read the manga to go right along with the anime, because that way you get a full understanding. Like, I feel it's a rule. Well, it shouldn't be a rule, but it feels like a rule that if there's an anime you don't understand, read the manga first. Because the manga can cover more than what the anime or the live action could tell you. And the three most prolific anime out there is Gundam, Inuyasha, and Rurouni. It's like one of, if you've ever been into a series like this series is, you have to get into the manga. You have to get into reading the manga and just like immersing yourself into it, because it is one of those series that you feel like you got to immerse yourself into it. You're doing yourself a great disservice if you do not immerse yourself into it. And I'm doing my damnedest not to basically blow up the series more than it already is, because as much as there have been so many series that have been given a second life, this is one of those series that has been given a second life. And others you've heard of that have been given a second life, like Sailor Moon, Getter Robo, Rurouni Kenshin, Urusei Yatsura, otherwise known as Lum the Alien, Digimon Adventure. Just to name a few, I would consider them second life anime because, you know, it's just like with certain comic series. Some people would want a refresher course in certain anime they know about, certain comics they know about, or certain, you know, pop culture series they know about. And it doesn't help. And it does help if you got a refresher course in it. I shouldn't say it doesn't help, but it does help. If you had a refresher course in it, what you know so far is what they're trying to repeat to a newer generation of watchers. So, can I recommend Rurouni Kenshin? Oh, hell yes. Hell yes. And I will also, for good measure, share some links about Rurouni Kenshin, about the manga, and all I can say is, if that's your jam, go for it. For those who have ever wanted to watch another series, you can either watch the newer version or the older version on Zoro. That's Zoro. Zoro. Look that up online. It is basically an anime site which has tons and tons and tons and tons of anime way back in the day to now. And it's both in sub and dub format for most of them. Not all of them, but most of them have sub or dub. So you can pick your poison on however you want to do it. That's how I got started in watching Cromartie High School. I basically went to that site and been watching Cromartie High School ever since then. And then after that, I started watching other series that I normally would be watching on Crunchyroll, but I figured, you know what, let me just go over here and just watch this series. And lo and behold, oh hey, this site has this series. all the series that I've always been wanting to watch, and there it is. It's like it's a secondary next to the box sets. But I would also say, if you have box sets of the series, well then by all means, go watch it. But be mindful of your time. That's all I ask. So I think that'll do it for this review of Rurouni Kenshin, Meiji Kenkaku Romatan. And all I can do is say it has my seal of approval as being one of the most enjoyable samurai dramas I've ever seen. And like I said, it tells a great story about one of the finest swordsmen ever known, Himura Kenshin. And if you want to know more, well, go watch it for yourself, read it, immerse yourself into it, enjoy it, and you'll thank me for it. There are others who will tell you, but only if you know. And if you know, you know. Till then, thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next time with something else.